In this video, you'll learn one of the most common must-know vocal effects that even if you're slightly interested in mixing, you need to know: the delay throw. But here's the big problem. While the delay throw is a common trick, most aspiring amateur mixers are actually doing this effect wrong, making it sound distracting and just out of place in their songs, because they're missing the secret tricks that pros use to glue the delay throw in. I've mixed over 1,000 songs professionally, meaning I've dialed in countless delay throws. So I'm going to show you exactly how the pros do this effect, and I can almost guarantee it's different from the way you're handling delays now. And here's a little bonus: this video is actually straight from my private one-on-one mixing mentorship, where I coach through exclusive videos like this behind closed doors. So think of this as a sneak peek, and let's dive into the video. Delay throw is a technique that is most commonly used on vocals, but you could essentially use this concept to do a delay throw on anything you wanted. A delay throw is when you have a lyric or a part, an instrumental part, and you throw just one particular word or one particular note or one particular moment goes into a delay, and that moment gets repeated. Most commonly with vocals, it's going to be the last word of a phrase or the last two words of a phrase. So let's check out this example, and then I'm going to show you the best way to do a delay throw. I'm actually going to show you two ways, and these two different ways are going to cover basically all the scenarios of delay throw you'd ever need to do. So let's just have a listen to a phrase of this song, and then you can hear where we're going to put the delay through.
The way you're acting got me feeling like I'm going crazy now.
This is not really mixed, it's just faders up. Vocal, we just kind of have a rough sound up and going, but this is much more than enough to show you how to do the delay throw. So here's our vocal track, and we can see it at the end here. I'm just going to bring it into the middle of the session so you can see. Just remember, it is this pink track here. Now, we are going to, the same way we know how to do a send, we're going to create a send track. So we're going to go new track, and we can name it delay throw. I'm lazy, so sometimes I just put DT, and we're going to make it stereo. And I'm going to hit create. This will now create the delay throw track next to our vocal track. I'm going to make sure it's going to mix because that's where my audio for you to hear this all is coming through. And now we have a fader. On this track where the delay throw would go, obviously we're going to put a delay. So I'm going to put H delay on here. Doesn't have to be H delay that you use. It could be any delay plugin, really. Most of them are pretty straightforward, but there are a couple things that we need to focus on. The first thing is making sure that it syncs to our session. With a delay throw being a repetitive, repeating part, we want that repetition to be in time with the song, so it flows and grooves with the rest of our production. Here's 118 BPM. You can see in this plugin, I just have to click on host, and it'll sync it to the session time. So if I click BPM, this is something that you can mess around with. If I just click host, let's actually make that different so you can see what happens. BPM, something different there. Then if I click host, it'll just sync it back to 118 BPM. If I want to do something specific or get shorter with some type of slapback delay that's not a delay throw, I can do that under milliseconds, but we're going to be under host. We got to sync. Now, our next question is, do we want this to be a ping pong delay that goes from the left ear to the right ear, or do we want it focused more center? Well, we'll listen to that in a moment. First, let me show you how to actually do the throw itself. Under our vocal track, you can always automate a send. So I'm going to go to level here, and this is automating the level of this send fader that we created. You see that there? So watch what happens when I do this. See, I'm automating this fader. We want to automate it just on certain words. This is the version 1 of how to do the delay throw. I'll show you the second version in a moment, but essentially what we'll do here is go to
Crazy now.
So let's say we want the word now, right? We're going to automate that up, and for me, I like to automate it to hit 0. So if I'm going through a whole song, instead of me carefully setting them all to 0 like that, I'll go through, I'll pick all the words, I'll bring that fader all the way up to the very top, so plus 12 dB, and then I grab them all at the end like this and bring them all down together to 0, because that's way easier than sending them, trying to hand dial in each one to 0. But I want it at 0 because if I go to 12, I'm going to be overloading. I'm going to be getting distortion, blasting that track into the delay. We don't want that. We just want to be coming in at unity gain 0. So this should be pretty straightforward at this point. Now, the most important thing to know with the plugin is it needs to be on 100% wet. So we got to set it to wet. I'm actually going to default this again, and it puts us back to wet. I'm going to turn analog off, and currently, this is the sound we have.
I'm going crazy now. Yeah, this.
So obviously that doesn't sound great, and there are a few reasons for that. First is we want to choose a delay time that actually feels good. So let's go to quarter note. That feels much better. If you're synced to your session, quarter note or eighth note, depending on how fast the song is and how fast your vocal part is, either a quarter note or an eighth note is going to be the right fit most of the time. See how that was a bit faster? So there can be delays where that makes sense to do that. But we're going to go with quarter note here. That feels the most natural. We're on 100% wet. And then I can pick my amount of feedback here. So how many repetitions I'm going to have. I'd like to be maybe somewhere around here. Nice. Then the next thing you can choose is, do I want this to ping pong? So you can set it to ping pong delay, which will be between the left and the right ear. For me, that can be a little bit distracting. So if I do ever use a ping pong, I'm going to actually set it as ping pong, but dial in the width of the ping pong, which you can do here with the fader, with the panning knobs. You see how that's dialed in more towards the middle? So it is still going left and right, but it's not the big distracting left and right. You almost never are going to want to go full left and full right like that. It just gets way too distracting with your delay throws. So something like ping pong leaned in is a little more natural. Some plugins allow you to do this within the plugin itself. So like, look, you can look at Echo Boy as an example. It's just going to load. And what I can do is set it to ping pong, and I can set the width under tweak directly in the plugin. And this will do exactly what I'm doing with these pan knobs, except I can leave the panning at 100 on the actual track because the width is being determined in the plugin. So just look at your tools and what you have. In this case, with this delay, let's just put it a single delay to keep it simple. I've showed you how to do the ping pong, so you can now use that. But we're just going to keep it simple in the middle. Great. Now our next step with this type of delay is to filter it. So you can use a filter if your plugin has one, meaning cutting off the lows and cutting off the highs. And usually what I like to do is cut it to the point where the meat of the vocal, the fundamental frequencies, are missing, and the top sparkly stuff on the vocal is also missing. You can hear how that thinned out the vocal. We're not getting that warmth and chest out of the original vocal file here that the singer has. We're actually filtering most of that out. I put the chest back in. See how it has this like to it. We want to filter that out because that's just going to create mud if we have repeating warmth like that, repeating vocal body. We don't really want that most of the time. And you can choose how hard you filter it, if it's like a hard telephone filter or just more of a subtle filter. Depends on the song, depends on the feel. I'm going to go with something like this. Whoops. And I don't want my feedback to 100. That'll repeat for a long, long time. We get a natural feedback level. And now with the song, we have something like this.
Got me feeling like I'm going crazy now.
At this point, now we can set the output of the delay plugin. So I can turn that down.
Got me feeling like I'm going crazy now. Got me feeling like I'm going crazy now.
See how it got quieter? I can set it with the output. I could also set it with this knob here. Okay, I could set it with the actual return fader. and have the output determined there. Totally up to you, does the exact same thing. One thing to keep in mind is you may not want, once you have your gain set at unity gain here, you may not want to change this. So for example, if you're thinking that delay throw should be louder, you might not really want to do that with this track, because all that's going to do is push it harder into your delay. And for example, if you set up distortion, sometimes you want to make a distorted delay just as an effect. This is getting into the weeds, but let's say you put a distortion on here after the delay so that you have kind of this distorted filtered effect in the background. Now you're going to be pushing, in theory, harder into the distortion because you're coming louder into everything that's on this chain. So once you have the sound you want, I'd probably recommend setting your output of the delay level with the return of the track or the delay plugin itself. Now, something else to keep in mind with the output of the delay and the amount that it is, you're usually going to want delay quieter. Big mistake that beginner mixers will make early on is they have their delays way too loud. Remember, it's got to be something very subtle and tasteful in the background that you don't really pick up on. It's not a big obvious thing. It's more subtle. It's tastefully done. It's not overwhelming. So let's set a level together now. Like that to me is still too loud. And when I started mixing, I would have maybe thought that's too quiet. So this is where some of the experience comes in, and this is some of the stuff I want to share with you, especially if you're earlier on in your journey. We want delays quieter than you would actually think. That's a little bit better. Could still be a little quieter, especially depending where you put it. You know, if you have a bigger section of the song, like look at this chorus here. If I call, would you pick it up? Treat me like somebody. There's a lot more elements going on there. So in this chorus, somebody, right? Let me just pull that up to unity gain here. There we go. Okay. Be like somebody with your time. Now it's a busy chorus, so this might have to be louder here. Treat me like somebody with your time and with your love. Actually, that was feeling okay. But if you wanted to go louder, for example, I could automate the return here. Treat me like somebody with your time and with your. And again, you might notice you might need a couple different times of delays for different parts of the song, because this quarter note here feels a little weird. Treat me like somebody with your time. It feels too fast. Treat me like somebody with your time. Like somebody with your time. I guess I'm hearing this as like a half note with the feedback just like one. Like somebody with your time and with maybe quarter. Like somebody with your time and with like somebody with your. You can see how you can endlessly mess with this. I think it comes down to around the quarter note timing that I'm looking for. But you get the idea of like how this is a creative effect now. Now this is getting creative. You have all these creative decisions to make. You have the volume, you have the filter, you have the amount of delay, the amount of repetitions, the timing of the delay. All these decisions you can make to basically do anything you want with this. And if you really want to get creative with it, you can start adding effects like we talked about. You could add distortion. One of my favorite things to do in pop music is something called a flanger. So a flanger will sound like this. Crazy now. And usually I'll just put it on really subtly. I have my own kind of preset for this where it's mixed in at, 20, 30%. Crazy now. Hey friend, if you're enjoying the video, make sure you hit that subscribe button below and turn on the bell notification icon so that you get my future videos about mixing. Don't forget to hit that like button too, because it really helps out the channel. All right, let's dive back in. And then from there, let's say you had your vocal sent to a reverb. Okay, so I'm going to just call this vocal reverb. One of the best things you can do with a delay throw is also put it into the same space as whatever space your vocal is in. So I'm just going to pull up really quick, just our verb, just the hall there. Okay. And let's put a little bit of our vocal into reverb. Crazy now. And now I've got this flanging effect on here. I'm going to turn this down so it's quieter as the delay throw. Crazy now. Okay, just because that flanger made it a bit louder, that's feeling way more natural. And now off of my delay throw track, I can send that same amount of reverb so that I have now put this repetition into the same environment as the lead vocal. So now they're glued together in a sense. Oh, except I got to make sure you're hearing that reverb. Sorry if you didn't hear it till this point. Sounds like this on the vocal.
Crazy now.
Okay. And now with the delay, here's the delay into that same reverb.
Crazy now.
Right? That's
Yeah,
me turning this. That's me turning the send up, but you get the idea here.
Crazy now.
So that's really like a full picture of what you can do with the delay throw. Now, I talked about the first way to do it, and this is a way I've done it very frequently, but I've also come across a new way to do a delay throw. And this is mainly because of S's in delays. Delay throws especially, and S's with vocals. You really don't want certain words, like let's go to that somebody, for example, here.
Treat me like somebody.
That somebody, the S of that.
Somebody.
Now, because we're all filtered out here, it's not a big issue, but let me dial things back a little.
Like somebody. What you talking?
We don't always want a strong S. Sometimes a strong S will come through, and you'll actually want a DS before the delay. So de-esser, right? And I can DS before the delay.
Me like somebody. What you talking?
That way those consonants are really controlled, and especially with a ping pong delay. If you have S's, T's, any consonants that are coming out of your delay throw, bouncing back and forth left and right, and you have those percussive consonants bouncing left and right, that's very, very distracting. It doesn't sound good. You don't really want strong consonants and strong S's, especially on delay throws. You need to be very careful with that. So it's something you have to listen for. And if it's like, oh, that is just an annoying repeating S or T or C or whatever it is, you may want to put a de-esser before your delay plugin. Another advanced way to do this is instead of doing a send at all, make sure you are happy with your vocal chain. And once you're totally happy with your vocal chain, you're going to bounce your vocal track. So I'm just going to click commit on my last plugin here. This is just a quick rough vocal chain for this video, but I'm going to select commit. And then I'm not going to pick delete. I'm going to pick do nothing to the original track. And it's basically going to bounce this track down with all the processing on it as a separate audio file next to it. So I'm going to hit OK. And it's rendering. So once this renders, I'm going to have a duplicate of the track right next to it. Okay, so you can see this is committed. I'm going to rename this vocal delay throw. Okay, for the sake of this video, or I could even just put DT again, right? And I'm going to make inactive this first way of doing it. So just ignore that way. We're doing the new way now, and we're not using a send at all. So in fact, I'm going to actually remove the send here. I'm removing that. I'm also removing the send from it copied over the other settings as well. So I don't necessarily want those. We could keep the reverb. So same concept. So you can imagine now what's happening here. Well, I have a copy of the track, which is the same as if we were sending at unity gain into a new track. And I can just open up my delay that was on the other track right here on this track. And what this will do, instead of where I have to essentially draw in all my own automation, that's the reverb, but you saw how I did it with the delay, drawing them all in and turning up the words. I can now just go into this track. I've now just muted it, and I can go in and just pick certain words to unmute. So I can go, I can go here to somehow, and I can unmute it. And because this is 100% wet, I'm only getting the delay out of this track. I'm not doubling up on the actual vocal part. I'm just getting the delay out of it. But the magic of it being on its own track like this is that I can manually control all my consonants with real audio editing. I could turn that S down manually. I could even shorten it and make it more quiet like this and really fade it in,
Somehow.
that's probably the best sounding result that I could have gotten here, is really making it quiet, fading it in like that.
Somehow.
You can barely hear that S. Hear how much less distracting that is than the full S, like that.
Somehow.
Listen to it in the delay with the song.
Somehow.
That S is distracting. We want to just, if I can just get in here, fade it in really nice, barely have any of it. It just starts the word off a little.
Somehow.
That's a much better vocal delay throughout. And again, then we can control volume within the plugin or here on the track.
Somehow.
Quiet in the background, send it to the reverb if we like.
Somehow.
Here we go.
Somehow.
One other common thing that you'll hear is very often a delay throw will have more reverb on it than even the lead vocal part. And that's done intentionally as an effect to put it in the background, kind of swirling around. So you can play around with that to your heart's content. This is a very creative effect. You don't just have to use it on vocals. You can also use it with instruments. And this is a full breakdown of how to truly do a delay throw in 2 different ways that the professionals use. And that is now going to add a whole level of dimension to your music. If you enjoyed this video, I have something I think you're going to enjoy even more. It's my home mixing cheat sheet, and it is free for you today. To download, the link is at the top of the description. What is the home mixing cheat sheet? It is my go-to settings for EQ, compression, and even possible effects like this for all sorts of instruments and all sorts of elements in your song, from vocals to guitar to drums to bass. It has everything you need to get a great starting point sound for your mix. And when you grab that free cheat sheet, I'll give you all the information on how my mixing mentorship works too, so that you can find out if it's a good fit for you. Other than that, friend, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, hit that like button if you can. Happy mixing, and I'll see you next time.